Yes, yes. So good afternoon, everyone. This is your hall coordinator, Shivani Singh, and welcome to 79th All India Ophthalmological Conference 2021. To begin the session, may I invite Dr. Vineet Ratra, the moderator Dr. Shweta Tripathi, panelist Dr. Aditya Neok, again panelist Dr. Jatinder Singh Bhalla, Shikha Fogla, the panelist, and the speakers for today's session are Dr. Amit Pandey, Dr. Preeti Paritosh Kamdar, Dr. Vineet Ratra, and Dr. Ankur Sinha. Over to you, ma'am.
So a very good afternoon to all. Are we live, Shivani, right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So a very good afternoon to all. And at the outset, I would like to thank Team AIOS and Partha sir for giving us this opportunity to take you all to the journey of tips and tricks of glaucoma surgery. I'll just take a couple of minutes to introduce my team members today who are going to aboard along with us in this journey. So just give me a moment. I'll just share my screen. So our first panelist is Dr. Shikha Fogla, ma'am, who is a consultant ophthalmologist and a glaucoma specialist in the Department of Ophthalmology, Apollo Hospitals, Hyderabad. Welcome, ma'am. Second panelist is Dr. Jatinder Singh Bhalla, Senior Consultant in HOD DDU Hospital, New Delhi, Member Scientific Committee AIOS, Treasurer DOS. Welcome, sir. Third panelist is Dr. Aditya Neok, sir, Consultant Ophthalmologist at Foresight Hospitals. Welcome, sir. Our speakers for today would be Dr. M. Shiraz Ali, Dr. Amit, Dr. Preeti Kamdar, ma'am, Dr. Vineet Ratra, sir, and Dr. Ankur Sinha. Welcome all. And at the last but not the least would be the moderators for today's session, Dr. Vineet Ratra, sir, and myself, Dr. Shweta Tripathi. So we are going to start with our first speaker. Dr. Shiraz, may I invite you to take over the dais and start your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can start sharing your screen.
My slides are visible.
Yeah.
Respected chairpersons, very good afternoon to all of you. Trabeculectomy is still considered the gold standard for medically uncontrolled glaucoma. These are the basic surgical steps performed at the time of a standard trabeculectomy. It's always a good practice to arrange the various instruments in sequence before the start of the surgery. Coming to the video, a superior rectus traction suture is taken. It is always a good habit to measure the dimensions of the conjunctival flap. A 5 to 6 millimeter of conjunctival flap is good enough. Fornix-based flaps are preferred these days mainly because of the scleral exposure and controlled surgery they afford. Dissect backwards with Westcott scissors to make a pocket of approximately 10 to 15 millimeters posteriorly and wide for the anti-metabolite sponges. Cautery should be just adequate. Extensive and excessive cautery should be avoided. Polyvinyl alcohol sponges soaked in mitomycin C are placed under the conjunctival flap as posteriorly as possible to enhance the posterior flow of aqueous. After 2 to 15 minutes, the sponges are removed carefully. After removal of the sponges, the treated area should be thoroughly and copiously irrigated with at least 20 ml of balanced salt solution. A scleral flap size of 4 by 4 millimeter or 4 by 3 millimeter is good enough. The triangular scleral flap margins are demarcated using a number 11 blade. The scleral flap is dissected using a 15 number blade. The dissection should be kept at half of scleral thickness. Each scleral incision is made in one continuous movement. Depending upon the case and surgeon's preference, scleral flap sutures can be pre-placed. Here, a releasable suture is being applied. Paracentesis is done. Anterior chamber is entered with a number 11 blade. Kelly's descemet membrane punch is used for sclerostomy. The areotomy should be made relatively broad at the base, but short in length. After areotomy, the sclerostomy site is washed and balanced with salt solution. The pre-placed suture is being applied at the apex of the scleral flap. Having placed the suture, the need for further sutures can be assessed by inflating the eye through the paracentesis and observing the amount of aqueous flow through the flap. Here, a second releasable suture is being applied to one side of the triangular scleral flap. There are various techniques of applying releasable sutures. This is one of the techniques. The third suture, which is an interrupted one, is being applied to the other side of the scleral flap. The knot is buried in the scleral bed. The bridal suture is removed. For a fornix-based conjunctival flap, two wing sutures are used to attach the conjunctiva to the limbus. It is important to take a firm bite in the episclera close to the cornea. After closure of the conjunctival flap, the anterior chamber is deepened by injecting balanced salt solution through the paracentesis. Finally, antibiotic eye drops are instilled and the eye is closed. To conclude, I would like to say that each and every surgical step of trabeculotomy is important and should be done meticulously to achieve the desired outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shiraz. It was a wonderful presentation, and I hope if the beginners and junior residents, they are listening to it, they would have benefited from it definitely. So first of all, I would thank you for a nice presentation, and I would ask Dr. Aditya sir if he can share his experiences, that what he went through while teaching all of us, because he has been a trainer and an immense help to us when we were doing our fellowships. Dr. Aditya sir, over to you.
Yeah. Excellent video surgery, sir, Dr. Shiraz. So like it has been shown, each step has to be done very meticulously, like we have seen in the video. And one of the main things which I feel that initially when we do cataract, the care for the conjunctiva, which is required many a times when we do a conjunctival peritomy in a cataract, we are not so concerned. But in this, we have to be extra careful, taking care to hold it properly, and always using a colibri forceps or non-toothed forceps. That is very critical, because a conjunctival tear, many a times it occurs, many a times I have also seen end of surgery, everything went well, then there is a conjunctival tear. Then we are caught with it, and this will be discussed subsequently. So that is one thing which is very important, I feel. And then when we do the dissection of the scleral bed, one point I feel is we should have a dry bed, because if it is wet, it's very difficult to gauge the thickness. And that is one thing I thought. And one more important thing is, like when we use the MMC sponges, we have to make sure that we take them out properly. Sometimes some sponges tend to break, and we have to make sure that they don't break when we cut them. So these are some of the things, and each step has to be done very meticulously, closure. And one thing is very important, that when we are doing the sclerostomy, we should not let the AC be shallow for a long time, specifically in cases which have angle closure glaucoma and all, which can lead to other problems specifically. But a very excellent surgery we have seen now.
Thank you, sir. Shikha ma'am, what would your experiences about teaching and training the beginners and the residents, and especially the fellows, when they are being precise about the glaucoma surgeries? So any tips for the people who are learning the surgeries or still doing, but still facing some difficulties in the surgery?
Okay, very excellent video presentation and nice points by Aditya. Same things to reiterate, you have to be very careful that the field is dry. When you're putting mitomycin C, count the sponges and make sure you do a good posterior dissection and keep the sponges a little posterior, not towards the limbus side. and wash it thoroughly so that you have a good diffuse posterior bleb and not towards the limbus side. And try to keep the anterior chamber well formed throughout. And the sutures, you can pre-place the sutures, especially you can take the, even I prefer the triangular flap, some prefer rectangular flap. So for this thing, I would always pre-place the suture, especially the basal, 2 basal ones, before we take out the punch, so that once it is done, you can immediately suture, and then your chamber will not be flat for too long.
Thank you, ma'am. Aditya, one more question. What is your take about making a stoma? That's what ma'am was saying about the punch. Do we have to leave a specific area which is going to be covered alongside with the flap alongside of both the sides of the punch?
That's a very good point. See, then you will see when you look at various surgeons, some surgeons make a huge, very large stoma. Some people make a very small stoma. But the most important thing is at least to have 0.5 mm coverage between the top of the scleral flap and the edge of the stoma. That is very important. Then only you get the guarded filtration. If it is eccentric, then you will have overflow. That is very important. Because it's always easier to maintain. If you have less flow, it's something you can handle. But if you have overflowing and a shallow AC, that's more difficult to handle, I feel.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So we move on to the next presentation. That's by Dr. Amit. That's trabeculectomy along with the Ologen. So far, there are many changes, or I should say the modifications in the basic gold standard glaucoma surgery. That's trabeculectomy. Sometimes it has come up with Ologen, sometimes with the other techniques, other antimetabolites. So let's have a look at what Dr. Amit has to say. Dr. Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Madam, I would like to thank AIOS for this opportunity. I'll be talking about trabeculectomy with Ologen. I do not have any financial disclosure. As in when any trabeculectomy, it starts off with the conjunctival peritomy and hemostasis. This is, every step is important. I also make a triangular scleral flap of around 4 by 4 mm in dimensions. And the sclerostomy is completed. After that, a peripheral iridectomy is done, as in any surgery that we do. The difference starts off when we start closing the scleral flap. The apical suture, I take an interrupted apical suture. We can also take a releasable one here, but the suture has to be loose. It should not be very tight, as we normally place in a MMC trap. A loose apical suture would help in the dynamic scleral flap movement in the early post-operative period, which is one of the mechanism of action of Ologen implant. I also take, for an added safety, I take a releasable suture at one side of the scleral flap. This is optional. The company does not, they say that one apical suture would be enough, but to prevent those early post-operative hypotony and flat ACs, if the patient rubs his or her eyes or sleeps on that side, I take this releasable suture, which I remove quite early in the post-operative period at around 3rd or 4th day if there is no hypotony. And this is just for an added. This is the Ologen implant. It goes in very easily in the subconjunctival space. This is a 6 mm diameter, 2 mm thickness Ologen implant. And we can easily close the conjunctiva over the Ologen implant without any extra efforts. It does not require any extra skill set. If you are okay in doing trabeculectomy, you can easily start putting Ologen implants also. A conjunctival closure, a watertight conjunctival closure is paramount, like in any trabeculectomy surgery. So what happens in the early postoperative period is, like I told, a dynamic scleral flap movement that happens. When the IOP starts increasing, more amount of aqueous starts flowing in the bleb area. As you can see in this animation, the aqueous gets absorbed by the porous Ologen, and that presses on the scleral flap and decreases, limits the amount of aqueous flowing outside, and vice versa when the IOP starts decreasing again. In the long run, what happens is the Ologen acts as a scaffold for the fibroblast to form a very loose kind of a connective tissue matrix in the bleb area, along with microcystic spaces for the aqueous to drain. So what we'll end up is a functional bleb with a normal looking conjunctival structure. I'm sorry. So this is what we'll end up with. This is the early postoperative and 2 years follow-up photograph. As you can see, the normal vasculature is present on the conjunctival surface over the bleb area. And it has microcystic spaces inside it, as the ASOCT photographs show here, which tells us that it's a functioning bleb. So my practice pattern is I usually do it in patients who have a very high risk of hypotony or related complications like old age, high myopia, and if they have had an history of hypotony in the other eye. The contraindications, I usually avoid it in doing in neovascular glaucomas or secondary uveitic glaucomas in patients with advanced glaucomas. In Muslim patients, I tell them about the porcine origin of this implant, and if they're okay with it, then only I go ahead with it. Cost is a limiting factor that has to be considered. Thank you for your kind attention.
That was
Thank you, Amit. Over to you, Vineet, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. That was a wonderful surgery. So you have started with the indications as to which patients you would actually prefer an Ologen as compared to a trap. So that's the important thing to decide. So do you anchor the Ologen, or do you just leave it as
No, so I leave it in the subconjunctival space. I do not anchor it. There's no sutures involved, and it remains in position. With the gravity, it gravitates down up to the scleral flap area. Even if we put it a little posterior to the scleral flap while closing it, with gravity in the early postoperative period itself, it comes down to the scleral flap area. And I've never encountered any exposure of the Ologen in the 200 odd cases that I've implanted this.
I think putting your additional releasable suture, which you do at the nasal in this case, which you did in the nasal part, actually would help control
yes,
it.
When I started, I for a MMC trap, I put 3 scleral flap sutures. So just putting one suture, a loose apical suture, was very difficult for me. And for good night's sleep, I take that additional releasable suture, and I remove it quite early if the pressures are not very low in the early postoperative period. I remove it at probably the 3rd or the 4th postoperative day itself for the actual mechanism to begin.
If Dr. Bala is there, Dr. Bala,
can I ask a question, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, do we actually take a religious consent from? Do we actually have something written in the consent that it is of porcine origin and is being allowed to use, because they have strong religious implications if you don't take such consent?
It's a very good idea to take a written consent. Most of the patients, I explain them, and probably 50% of the patients, they go against it, and some of them, they say we don't mind, and it's not that we are consuming porcine origin thing. It's of medical indication, and they understand that. So in that case, yeah, but your point is very correct, that we should mention it in our consent that it's of porcine origin.
So do we have something there in SN, sir? Like, do we have this mention in the consent in the SN about this?
We don't use so much of Ologen. We mainly just trap with Mito.
Because I'm
using Ologen myself.
Okay. Because I did add one line into my consent about this, because I think it can be touchy sometimes. So I just thought I'll point it out.
Has anyone else used Aditya, Shika?
I do not use Ologen so much, so would not know. But what Dr. Ankur has said is maybe we can have that, because later on patients should not say that we didn't know, because that is an issue many times.
Ologen that you used at other.
Just one more question, sir.
Yeah.
Any experience of Ologen in glaucoma combined surgeries?
You mean to say, sir, phacotrabeculectomy?
Yeah. Because mostly we use
most of the surgeries that I end up doing are phacotrabeculectomies only. And I've done approximately 200 Ologen implants, and most of them, I think more than 80% of the cases would be a phacotrabeculectomy only. The results are quite encouraging. Around 50% of IOP reduction I've noted on an average from the baseline. And the IOP, the number of AGMs change also is around 5-fold, from 1.9 plus or minus 0.6 AGMs at baseline to around 0.6 plus or minus 0.4, something like that is what my statistics say. So the results are quite encouraging.
Big advocate of Ologen. He used to use a lot of Ologen, Dr. Sridhar Rao.
So just for saying, can Ologen be considered a substitute for mitomycin C?
In many of the cases, I do consider it as a viable substitute, especially in patients where I know that they are at a high risk of developing hypotony related, because I'm very afraid of hypotony. I'm more afraid of hypotony as compared to postoperatively. So in those cases, especially in cases where one I have had an hypotony related complication, or in patients with very high myopia, very old age patients where nothing is working and you end up doing a surgery. And in those cases, definitely it's a very good substitute in my hands, is what I can say.
Amit, I have got a question. What do you prefer? Like, what message would you like to give your juniors, whether they should perform, when we have been talking about the phacotrabeculectomy along with the Ologen. So would you like to give a message that whether they should prefer a single site phacotrabeculectomy while using the Ologen, or it should be a two-site thing?
I do both. When the cataract surgeon is a different surgeon, they usually prefer doing a temporal phaco, and then I do my superior trab. When I do it alone, I do it as a single site phacotrabeculectomy. The advantages I would say is that I'm not opening the eye in two different places. Theoretical possibility of infection would be more if we are opening it up in two different places, and also shifting from one place to the another and then coming back again would increase my surgical time also. And I don't like placing that side port entry close to my trab. If I inadvertently rupture the conjunctiva there, I'm very afraid of doing that. So I would prefer doing a superior single site phacotrabeculectomy with or without Ologen.
So Vineet sir, can we switch on to the other presentation as now the time is up?
Yeah, just one point, Amit. When you do a two-site, do you suture your cataract wound?
No, sir. We hydrate it well.
Shallow AC, your cataract wound would also gape.
Right, sir. What I do is I keep the viscoelastic in the AC till I suture my scleral flap, and before suturing my conjunctiva, starting of suturing of conjunctiva, I do a irrigation and aspiration to remove the viscoelastic substance, and then I close my conjunctiva. That ensures the wound is not giving way.
Okay, so that's one point. If you're doing a two-site surgery, it's always good to even secure your cataract wound, because in case you end up with a shallow anterior chamber, your cataract wound would also gape. And since it's sutureless, and you have either a uniplanar or a two-planar, it can leak from there and then cause an infection. Right. It's okay, but it's always better to be on the safer side. So yeah, Shweta, you can go on to the next one.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Amit, for a wonderful presentation. And now, since we have performed the surgery, now what comes? That's the post-operative visit of the patient. So, as we all know, that glaucoma surgeries are a little unpredictable when it comes to being a shallow or a leaking bleb or a shallow AC. So, one of the nightmares Dr. Preeti ma'am is going to cover for us, that's fixing the leak. That we really know that if a bleb is leaked, either it's an early leak or a late leak, can end up in a nightmare, giving nightmares to us. So, over to you, Preeti ma'am.
And I'll share my screen now.
Yes, ma'am.
One moment. Just a minute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me just close this. I'll open my yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll start sharing. Yes. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to AIOS and Dr. Shweta for this opportunity. And as she had said, that a leaking bleb is a nightmare for all of us. And this is just the case details. It's a 32-year-old patient whom I had operated in February. Right from the first day, there was third day rather, there was a bleb leak from the conjunctival edge. Did not resort to conservative management, hence resuturing was done. I did cyanoacrylate glue and contact lens also after that. But the AC formed, but the leak continued. He had to go back to his village, and since the AC was very well formed, I reluctantly advised him, but in April he followed up with a shallow AC and a persistent leak. And so now what you see here is a leaking bleb and a thin walled conjunctiva which I had to tackle. This is the area from where there was a bleed. So what I am trying to do is that I am cutting from the limbus, I am trying to cut off the avascular tissue, because even if you try to cover it, that avascular tissue will create trouble. And I am going from the abnormal tissue to the normal tissue. I have cleared off the avascular conjunctiva because it's of no use, and I am trying to go from abnormal to normal, but I have met with the ring of steel which sort of is defying all my attempts to break through. I mean, that's the, what do you say, the wonder of fibrous tissue. Now I am trying, I think maybe I have made a little headway. So I keep on trying, but I realize that all I am going to get is a frayed conjunctiva if I continue my efforts. So then I try to find the nearest, the conjunctiva which is nearest the bleb, and yes, which is normal, and from there I make a small nick into the conjunctiva, into the tenons, and a vertical cut. I go underneath and try to now go from the normal resistance. Finally I am able to break through. I am freeing one side of the bleb, cutting it as near the limbus. This is the fibrous tissue which was the source of all the trouble. I go from the other side also, from the normal to the abnormal, cut it, and then cut. Yes, I have managed to sort of undermine it and then cut as close to the limbus. But however, the tissue, the fibrous tissue which tethers the conjunctiva underneath will not allow me to have the conjunctiva drawn right up to the limbus, and I have to separate the tissue. I am trying to make sure that yes, it will reach, but yes, this cord like fibrous tissue will not allow. If I don't cut it off and don't freshen the edges, it will not allow any healing, and I will have the same problem which I had after I resutured it. So cut it as close to the fibrous cord, hold it again so that you can go very near it, and finally you are rid of the fibrous tissue. and now again you try, I have a scleral bed which it's not melted. I'll remove the suture, and now two sides of the conjunctiva I will be suturing. I'm trying to again make sure that I'm going to get it very easily, it's not under strain. So, and when I'm trying to suture it, I take a very large and deep bite of the limbus, so it anchors properly both sides. And now, yeah, I feel that maybe it's a little bit under tension, so I give a little relaxing incisions on the conjunctiva, not going down right down to the tenons, and I'm trying to make it a little loose so that it does not, it's important, otherwise it will retract and the leaking spot will be exposed. So here I know that there is going to be a little retraction, so I am trying to take a mattress suture which will sort of fix this conjunctiva onto the limbus and cover the area of the leak also. So in this way, when I suture it and I tighten it nicely, it comes and covers the leak. So thank you for being a wonderful audience. And the thing is, the aim of surgery is to cover and reinforce the weak area, restore ocular integrity and preserve bleb function. Now the first two goals are imperative, the later is desirable, but sometimes unfortunately the bleb may not function well after these surgeries. So over to you, Shweta. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful presentation, along with a very interesting, I should say, the bleb leak repair. Definitely all of us are going to be a little more enthusiastic while pulling out the conjunctiva, because it is really difficult in the OT when the conjunctiva doesn't budge, just refuses to budge from its place. And I would like to just ask Shikha ma'am, can she share her experience regarding the repair of the bleb leak? Like what does she prefers, whether a conjunctival advancement or taking a conjunctival flap from the other side? What are the deciding factors for the same?
Yes, Shweta. Like mentioned, excellent video, and this is all glaucoma surgeons' nightmare, having a bleb leak and a shallow bleb, whether it's an early bleb leak or a late bleb leak. So depending upon when you get it, if it's early, try to see where it is from, whether you can conservatively manage, if need be, give aqueous suppressants. But if you feel that your bleb leak is not going to settle down, especially if your chamber is shallow, you don't want to end up with complications, especially in individuals who are having angle closure glaucoma. So in those cases, my waiting period would not be that long. So usually if the conjunctiva, like Preeti said, if you can manage, it's always better to mobilize, advance and have a good suture. But then you can, at the corneoscleral junction, just have a little groove so that your suturing there is very meticulous and there is no leak. But if you feel that your conjunctiva, if it's a late bleb leak and it wouldn't be mobilized, then it's always a better thing to take a conjunctiva from the inferior side or the other side and put the graft so that your bleb doesn't leak again.
Yes, ma'am. So I think by this explanation of ma'am, I think we all are clear that when to just try to pull that non-shifting conjunctiva or whether to take in another side for the conjunctival dissection. Ma'am, any experience regarding, like, what is your opinion? I should be asking that role of gentamicin or starting a doxycycline in an early leak period.
When I was in Nethralaya, we used to do, and even still at times I do prefer to give, but not for too long. So if you feel it's a very small leak and it may settle down, you can try. I have tried, but I think it's always better to address the leak. I mean, don't rely too much on gentamicin is what I would say.
So ma'am,
what Vineet has to say now, I will.
Vineet sir, over to you.
I agree with you, Shikha, that gentamicin was thought to probably increase scarring a little. Suppressants, giving gentamicin and probably a contact lens which is covering the peripheral leak could help Like a wonderful surgery, a difficult case, very beautifully managed.
Thank you.
The patient does really well. Let us know how he does.
No, the leak did not occur again, but the pressure went to 26.
That's okay. 26.
Yeah, exactly. He was 40 and 26. After 1 month, I was okay.
Like Aditya said, you're not worried about higher pressures which you can get down. You're more worried
Right.
about
Yes.
pressures which you
Arises here from my side.
Yes. Sorry?
Ma'am, one more question. When you said that the pressure went up to 26, so any take that when is to intervene about can, because already the so now we know that the patient is prone and the conjunctiva and the ocular status is prone for leak. So are we supposed to intervene by 5-FU injections? Can we think in those terms if the pressures are shooting up and we see that again there is a highly vascularized bleb?
You're asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. See, for him now, he has a very narrow palpebral aperture. So even the process of lifting the lid causes some kind of traction on the conjunctiva, and probably that's why the leak occurred in the first place. Maybe that's the reason. But here now he was on 26 without any medications. So I'm just now restarting medical management and seeing if it works. If it works, then I would not really do anything to the conjunctiva which has just barely healed. Yes. So depends on how the pressure responds, then I would do my future. I would not even do a TRAB or a 5-FU. I would maybe, if the pressure is uncontrolled, I may take him up for a valve rather than this.
And in this particular scenario, which quadrant would you like to choose for a valve? Because already the conjunctiva and the superior quadrant has been compromised. And
I would do a superior temporal because it was just superior, no? So superior temporal conjunctiva would be okay. But in his case, even with anything, I think the exposure would be, as I said, it's a very narrow palpebral aperture. So the exposure risk would be a little higher. So I would probably put the plate a little more posterior and not use a graft, just do a scleral, don't add to the volume. Just take his own scleral flap and put the tube underneath. That's probably what I would do.
Okay, and thank you, ma'am. And Dr. Ankur, would you like to share your experiences regarding oral use of doxycycline? Because in some part of the literature, we have come across cases where the doctors, they have tried giving the oral doxycycline in the dose of 20 milligram per day. I don't know how much practical it is possible, but yes, of course, if you have any experience regarding this.
I don't think actually it works. I mean,
yes,
it's, you can find literature which can support a lot of things, but practically these things have not shown to be working in leaking blebs. It is best to have this contact lenses placed over it, as Dr. Vineet rightly said, and maybe waiting for some time to have this fibrosis. And then in the end, what Dr. Preeti did was a marvelous surgery, like if you have these issues.
Thank you.
So you can have a lot of things in the literature, but practically we don't find them very useful.
Yes, because that was my point of question also, because we have come across the literature, but practicality, I haven't found also any case improving with this doxycycline oral. So I thought probably I can just clarify. This is the best forum where I can clarify with experts. So thank you, Preeti ma'am. And moving on to the next speaker, that's Dr. Vineet Ratra sir, who's going to give us a brief idea about how to use the absorbable sutures and their role in the trabeculectomy. Over to you, sir.
So we can't hear you, sir. It's muted, I think. Sir, it is muted, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What I'm going to show today is Faker. First, I would like to thank AIOS, Dr. Partha, and Shweta for having included me in this. So what I'll be talking about today is on a phacotrabeculectomy. I have no financial invest and I use an absorbable suture. Well, the first thing what we need to know is to choose the right patient. like Dr. Preeti was saying, that small palatal fissures are big risks for any glaucoma surgery. Glaucoma surgery is a surgery which we have to do, not something which we want to do. So let's start with this 66-year-old lady who had a best corrected visual acuity of 6.9 and 6 in the right eye and 6 by 7.5 and 6 in the left eye. She had a RAPD in the right eye and her anterior chamber was shallow with an immature cataract. She had had YAG peripheral iridotomies done, and post PIs her intraocular pressure was 26 on 3 medications. She had scattered Synechae all around and advanced cupping with a 0.8 to 0.9 and an inferior notch in the left eye. These were her fields, and based on this, we decided to plan a cataract and a glaucoma surgery in the right eye. So, well, this is how the eye was. So, when you start doing a cataract or a glaucoma surgery in a phacotrabeculectomy, you want to make slightly smaller excesses. This is because when you make a larger excess over here, there is a chance if the anterior chamber shallows that your lens can come into the anterior chamber and you could get a pupillary capture. Then the conjunctival opening, well, this was the right eye. I like to open it in an L-shaped pattern, a little towards the right side so that you have enough space to do more glaucoma surgeries. Rather than take the 12 o'clock, prefer to start on one side of the eye. Like everyone said, you need minimal cautery and then you place your mitomycin seam or seal sponge. So you don't want to keep this at one place, but 0.2 milligrams, you want to keep it mobile at all times. You want to push it posteriorly, push it to the side and don't touch the conjunctival edges. So we use around 0.2 and at times 0.4 for around a minute. After that, a thorough wash with around 10 to 15 ml of normal saline and in a jet. So you use a cannula and use it rather than just removing the cannula, because it's like when you're using a cannula, you're giving localized jets while washing it. Your scleral tunnel incision is similar to a phacotrab. It's around 1.5 millimeters posterior to your limbus, and it's either a straight and not or an inverted, mildly inverted frown. The dissection into the cornea is as much corneal as you can go. So you want to go as much corneal as you can go and use your keratome to enter as much corneal as you can. Now, cornea is a neurovascular tissue, so you would not expect any fibrosis or closure of the ostium to occur if you're making your ostium as anterior. So the phacotrab is, the phaco was quite similar, only you want to use low settings. This is because when you have an already compromised nerve, you wouldn't want more fluctuations, raised pressures to cause a further AION and further fall in vision. So when you place the lens, I like to have the haptics in the direction of the ostium so as to give it some sort of a support. And this is the main thing. Now, using a Descemet sponge, you make an ostium. So the ostium is again as much anterior. I like to make it in a sort of a funnel shape. That is 2 bites in the inner cornea and then 1. The second one will be depending on if I lift the flap, I can see the edge of the ostium and the iris. So once I can see that the iris has come out from there, I know that I'm at finished. I've made 4 punches there. After which, after pilocarpine insertion, do a PI. Then wash it, inject saline from the side to see that you have a good flow of fluid through the ostium. Then comes the closure. So the first closure is with a Tenno monofilament nylon, where you do the normal 3-2-3-1-1 throw and bury it below the scleral flap. So you want to again rotate it and bury it so that there is a slight space between the scleral flap and the bed. Then viscoelastic into the eye, after which you start the closure. So the closure is using Tenno vicryl sutures, where you use it on either side of the ostium. don't go through the ostium. So you start with one end, take a bite through the ostium, over here it's the right isotemporal to the ostium. The second one, nasal to the ostium, and then close. So what you end up with then is, and then tie it. So you end up with a crisscross, a sort of a crisscross pattern of closure where your maximum pressure is right over the ostium. So you're taking the bite on the other side. And then close it. So this is again a 3-1-1 bite, and you would want to keep the knot towards the outside. You wouldn't want to bury the knot. These are quite sharp and they could puncture through the conjunctiva, causing a leak. So you would, the other help would be by keeping it out, is that's where your conjunctiva is going to go, and these get absorbed by WBC, so you will get more inflammation along the conjunctival edge. The closure is again with a tenovicryl, again in a continuous interlocking pattern, by anchoring it at the episcleral and the corneal on the, again in an L-shaped pattern, and then this side again anchoring it and then closing it. Then you have any wound leak, and that's the end of your surgery. So we did, I did look at nearly 97 eyes of 93 patients. We did have, when I was using a single suture and not a crisscross, there were a few cases of shallow anterior chamber. But once I started using the crisscross pattern, this amount of shallow anterior chamber did reduce. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, it was a wonderful presentation and very beautifully done. And it just revised our days in Nethralaya when we were there. So, sir, there is a question do you recommend in all the cases to be done this absorbable sutures, or there is any particular case selection for these sutures?
I do it in all my phaco traps. And if I feel the pressure is starting to rise a little, I teach the patient massage.
And sir, is there any IOP reduction difference between if we take a proper releasable or we go for this Vicryl crisscross absorbable sutures? Any difference?
It depends. Now, when you're taking a release, a normal releasable suture, you're taking a bite through the ostium. So that acts as a scaffold for fibrosis. So here there's nothing which is going through your ostium, and your flap is very tight. So in the early post-operative period, you will see that the pressures are well maintained. It takes a week to 2 weeks for this to lose its tensile strength, and you see that the flap starts getting a little bit. By then you will see that your conjunctiva, fibrosis, everything is upward. Your conjunctiva, the tenues get absorbed well, and you hardly find them in come on class.
Okay, sir. So Aditya, sir, are you there, sir?
Yeah.
We would like to hear your experience, sir, regarding this particular suture, sir.
Excellent surgery, sir. And this is like something which should be done only by experienced surgeons. This is not recommended for beginners. You have to know your surgery, how much fluid is going out.
Yes.
Yeah. Once you master your releasables and you know when you release this much you're going to get out. So you have to know that your ostium is absolutely right and this is what will happen. This is like magic, those who can do it. So in 3-4 weeks, automatically it opens up and the bleb increases. But that is only after you master the surgical techniques one should try, I guess. Not for beginners.
Yes, definitely, for sure, sir. That is the bottom line, I think, for this kind of usage of sutures.
Even afterwards, Aditya. The suture is, so if you feel that your leakage is more, you can leave some viscoat inside.
Yes.
Taking your conjunctival sutures, if you feel the leak is more, you can take a bite through the ostium there.
Yes. No, what I was saying, because a lot of people, if they are seeing some new surgeons, they should not try this initially, in the initial days. Once you master, yeah, that's what I was mentioning. Not for the people in the panel. This is for like the audience at large. If somebody is watching it.
That is true. And sir, what is the Aditya sir? What is the experience? Can we manipulate the bleb in the same way what we do in the normal releasable, like manipulation of the blebs, like massage or any 5-FU injections in the post?
Yeah, massage definitely, like sir has said, if the bleb is not increasing, you give a little massage. So that is what is done. And 5-FU, if bleb, you see the signs of scarring and all, 5-FU can be given injectable. So that's it.
Your ostium should be patent.
Yes.
Conjunctival fibrosis where it will help.
Okay, and so 5-FUs can be given the way we give during our routine practice glaucoma surgeries.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, sir. It was a wonderful presentation. And now moving on to the most awaited presentation and most awaited surgery of the glaucoma field, that's AGV. So over to you, Dr. Ankur Sinha. Whatever said and done, I think the AGV, again, after trabeculectomy, is the most popular surgery, which everybody wants to do and everybody wants to learn also. So over to you, Dr. Ankur, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta, for making me a part, and thank you, AIOS and Dr. Partha for bringing me here. So I'll be talking about step-by-step AGV surgery. So we all know that with time, the number of trabeculectomies are decreasing, maybe because of increasing in number of medications, and number of tube shunt surgeries are increasing because we are trying to manage more and more complicated glaucomas. So this is a video, one of my old videos, operated PK, one-eyed patient is planned for a AGV. So here, this is the PI, which is already there, and I'm going to use this place. So the tube will be at 12 o'clock, but the plate will be little off center, that is in the supratemporal quadrant. So I'll make a little larger conjunctival opening. I prefer to make L-shaped opening, and then we'll do a gentle cautery to settle the bleeders. This is an 8 millimeter mark where the tube will be tethered. So the tube should be around 8 to 10 millimeters from limbus, and a 6 by 4 millimeter mark where I'm going to use the patient's own scleral flap rather than a donor sclera. So in the old videos, I would dissect this quite anteriorly, but now I don't dissect it so anterior. We'll finish up somewhere here, and we'll make a tunnel from about 2-3 millimeters away from the limbus. So this is the gentle dissection as we do it for trabeculectomy, but this is 4 by 6 millimeters quadrangular flap. And this is the 8 millimeter mark where I'm going to keep these pre-placed sutures. And I again mentioned that the plate will be decentered as compared to the tube, because we want to utilize the existing PI and minimize the anti-segment manipulations because it's a operated PK. So these are the two pre-placed sutures, and I use Ethibond to secure the plate. Then we kind of prime the valve by approximately 2 ml of DSS, pass these sutures through the eyelets of AGV, and gently push the AGV into the subconjunctival pocket. Care should be taken not to harm the valvular mechanism. And then this is the tethering of the plate to the sclera. And then we make a small tunnel here so that the tube goes in a sinusoidal way so that it reaches the straight 12 o'clock position where we want it to go. So this is how the tube will turn now from this way nasally and then straight. This is around 2.5 millimeters into the anterior chamber. We inject the sodium hyaluronidate to keep the globe little tight. And again, I am going under the iris, not trying to damage the cornea, which is grafted. And then we make a tunnel with a 23 gauge. This is the most important step. It should not be hitting the cornea or the iris. But we have a PI here, so we are not worried about it. And this is how the tube is inserted with the help of a tube inserter. And then I would pass 2 apical sutures as we do it for trabeculectomy. And then this has to be a little watertight. So there will be 2 apical sutures and 2 more sutures on the side so that there is no paratubal leak, at least in the early post-operative period, so that we don't land up with hypotony. And then we meticulously close the conjunctiva again, keeping it watertight so that again there is no leak. And there has to be a good covering without any tension over the valvular area. Otherwise, you can have exposure of the valve in the long term. So this is the end of the surgery where we have placed the tube here, just abutting the iris, and the plate is little off center. So this is the same patient post-op, 3 years follow-up now, maintaining a good pressure and good control of IOP. This is another case where AGV has been done in operated VR with operated DSEC. With secondary glaucoma, the tube is behind the iris. Another case of post-traumatic angle recession glaucoma with retinal detachment, the tube has been put along with a buccal and a limited PP. So this is the 4 years follow-up of the same patient. This is an older patient, so this is longer tube now. Now this is another one-eyed patient operated RD with secondary glaucoma where the existing PI has been used to keep the tube away from the cornea. So in the end, I would say that in the present scenario, one should be well versed with the tube surgery because this is what is required in more complicated cases. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ankur. Indeed, it was a wonderful presentation with a beautiful surgery done. And later on, whatever the cases you showed us, the photographs, the clinical photographs, they were really very nice. And since we are running out of time, I would like to ask Vineet sir to conclude the session with a note to all the speakers. From my side, it's have a great day by enjoying AIOS, the other sessions. Over to Vineet sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really a wonderful session, beautiful surgery. The trap was so well done, very well explained. So was the Ologen. So these are the surgeries which all of us need to know. And if you're practicing glaucomas, you need to know how to do a trap with Ologen, MF glaucoma valve. You definitely know, and there was no better points that you would have got than from Dr. Ankur. And if you end up with a bleb which is leaking, which is a nightmare for all of us, Dr. Preeti Madam has showed us how well you can manage it. Thank you, Shikha. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you for all of you for being here. Dr. Shiraz, beautiful surgery. Dr.
Thanks a lot.
Surgery. And Ankur, we don't need to say anything. We know how well you actually do. Thank you so much, Dr. Preeti Madam. Very beautiful and very well done surgery in a very difficult case. Thanks, Shikha. Thanks, Aditya. And thanks, Shweta.
Thank you, everyone. Sir.
Thank you all. Have a very nice day. Yeah. And stay safe, all of you.
Yeah, thank you all and keep enjoying AIOS. Thank you all. Over to the IT team for the next session to take over. Thank you and bye-bye.